things. Um, Welcome, everyone. Sorry, I paused. We have a lot to discuss and a lot to do today. I'm really excited to see you all. A little bit later today, we're going to be doing our elections for officers. So for our co-chairs and our chair-elect, and for university senators. So if you're still on the fence, please consider a nomination from the floor. I'm specifically going to pause a very long time at the university senator nomination spot to make sure we have enough folks. It's not too late to throw your hat in the ring, but we'll talk a little bit more about how you can nominate from the floor as we get a little bit closer. Additionally, following elections, we're going to have a 15-minute open comment period for everyone. This was brought forward as an idea by one of our PAC members, who I won't call out, but you can take credit if you want it. The thought being that this could be a good time for members to chat openly about what they're experiencing in your work and in your communities right now, that might not easily fall under one of our agenda items. So I hope you're all able to stay and participate. And with that, I'm checking to make sure I'm not missing any chats. Yes, I will go ahead and move on to our first item. I had sent an email late last night, so apologies that it was at the end of the day, regarding the AF&T task force and their response to our questions and recommendations following the report of their presentation at our last Senate meeting. We can also be sure to include that in the minutes. Last week on Thursday, the Faculty Senate heard from that AF&T task force about the report. It was presented as information, along with the clarifying statement that I again sent out to everyone that accompanied their report. I read our statement, as did the Civil Service Chair-elect, following their presentation, and talked about our concerns and lingering recommendations. However, we did get specific feedback from folks that they were unsure whether or not P&A was specifically endorsing the report or not. They heard that we had lingering concerns, but we weren't really sure where exactly we stood as a body. So during our new business later, we're going to make that work. We're going to conduct a brief vote to gauge support for this report and the accompanying statement, and I'll report the results back to the Faculty Senate. This is important because right now it's planned for there to be a vote on the endorsing the report and the statement at the next Faculty Senate meeting. So this would give senators who are wondering, where we stand on this, a more concrete idea of where the body is. As a reminder, I'll briefly go over our request to AF&T. The first was, should this report lead to action, the implementation team will review faculty tenure policy to determine if it may be extended to include a category beyond term faculty that includes P&A faculty, non-tenured faculty, and librarians. This is now a possibility, as they note in part 3 of their statement, that the task force may propose modifications to the Board of Regents policy, though they specifically note term faculty appointments there, and I'm not sure if that expansion would be enough to categorize all of those folks. If a reclassification process is undertaken, it should be led by faculty who are not covered under the current tenure policy, with oversight from AF&T. The task force is still recommending this remain in the Faculty Senate, so they did not agree with that recommendation. And finally, we encourage the creation of a working group to study this issue at the national level and make more specific recommendations before forming an implementation team, which sounds very concrete, to provide an opportunity for groups like P&A faculty to be consulted earlier in the process in drafting those recommendations. And it would give the Faculty Senate greater clarity on what they're approving moving forward. A variation of this was included in their attached statement, but they recommend the creation of multiple task forces to kind of implement what they're recommending moving forward. There were a fair number of questions and concerns raised from faculty, in addition to what we outlined. The most timely being that we found out that the provost currently has a task force ongoing, looking at the same issue, really at term faculty, at instructional faculty, P&A faculty, and they're going to be making recommendations. Hopefully, we'll see those by May, and then they would continue working on that. And that's not been finalized. So a lot of folks would like to see the results of that report before this would move forward. The chairs stated that both processes run parallel and they don't rely on each other. But there was some disagreement about the accuracy of that. So I will now take a break from talking and pause to give Molly and our PAC members, our other university senators, or anyone who's interested really, an opportunity to comment on the report. Oh yes, we can link the report in the chat. That'll just be a second. And then folks can just go ahead, I think for this period and raise your hand if you have comments, and I can go ahead and call on folks, and I will work on linking that report also.
I'm happy to start this off, Tony. Thanks. So as Tony shared, she was given the opportunity to speak to the concerns of the P&A Senate's review and the responses we got from the AF&T task force members, and that they, as you can see in their responses to us, they weren't necessarily taking them in and fully integrating them into their plans. They did make some updates to the recommendations, or I guess adjustments to the recommendations in their presentation to the Faculty Senate last week. And so they did incorporate a little, I think, feedback from just like the various consultation processes, but I do not believe that they have fully incorporated the things that our Senate or the Civil Service Senate have concerns regarding these recommendations. So this I feel means that we have remaining concerns that have not been addressed, and that we should think about that before making any sort of decisions based on that. And I see that other people have raised their hands, so I'd rather other people speak.
Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, and I guess I will start off to say that the provost group, having still been in progress while this is going to be voted on beforehand, is certainly the first and foremost concern that I have. And I certainly think that, that's a just procedural concern, but I will also say that it's emblematic of the idea that everyone has a bit of a different understanding of what's presently happening. Because, and I forgot who at the PAC, one of the Senate associates, or Lori had sent us the like document that established P&A. And I went back and looked, and it actually does, for those of you unpack, match exactly what the president said. At least if you believe, like if that was still in effect, what was written there, it does match the idea of this being a parallel track of faculty within the same disciplines. And like I did not like realize that that's what the document actually said that established P&A. And then I know when we met with the president yesterday, she had a very different understanding than I've been hearing in Senate meetings. I can't say who's right or wrong, or who like where the truth actually is, but I can pretty firmly say that there's a variety of understandings, and I will certainly conclude by saying that the action is coming from the administration. Any changes, any implementation will be done by the implementation or done by the administration. So I think working much closer with them is really helpful. And I think having it not be two parallel tracks when one of them is the entity that's going to implement it and the other one's advisory, I think that would be very helpful if it was more collaborative in that way instead of what I at least see as parallel tracks.
And I'll note quickly while others are kind of thinking about their thoughts on this, but in our conversation, I'm going to talk about this in a second. The president actually joined PAC earlier than we were expecting. She joined us at yesterday's meeting, not next month's meeting. That's our next topic. So skipping ahead a little bit, but there was a difference of opinion in that this AF&T task force is Their assertion is that academic freedom protections are strongest under the faculty tenure policy, and therefore anyone who is categorized as faculty needs to be moved into the existing definitions of that policy in order to have access to appropriate academic freedoms. The president has a different interpretation of how academic freedom is applied. I think the I took a brief quote, so I know I skimmed it down, but there is a note in policy that says academic staff shall be eligible for the same dot dot dot. So there's more here safeguards of academic freedom. So there's a carve out specifically for academic staff, but they're saying that that's not strong enough, and that's kind of moving their recommendations forward. So the president's, I'm just reading out of the chat. The president's interpretation is that academic freedom protections apply where they're needed for instructional staff and those that are fulfilling the mission of the institution, and that there's other language in our policies that allows for that academic freedom. Um, but there has been, I'll say anecdotally quick before I go to others. There has been some disagreements in university Senate, at least, when we've been talking about issues around like unit statements and other things that have come up as a result of the Board of Regents resolution on university or departmental statements. Um, to say that, some faculty think that academic freedom protections are more expansive than perhaps the definition of what senior leaders would define it as, to say, like, if you're teaching in your area about specific subjects, you have the freedom to say anything that you would need to in order to teach that subject. It doesn't necessarily verge into every subject under the sun, but there's different interpretations of that. So that may be part of the issue as well. Angel, please go ahead.
It was my understanding that President Cunningham said for those whose positions had to do with instruction and research, that is where the academic freedom came in. And so she said that she really felt like there was misinterpretation across the board of our university on this too. And with everything that she has read, and she referenced this 1980 creating the P&A staff that Josh put into the chat. And she referenced 10 pages, so starting at page 243, where she felt like academic freedom is inclusive of P&A staff if they are doing instruction and research. And that's what I felt like she reemphasized. After listening to her chat, I feel like it's very premature for us to even vote on this without the provost reporting on this too. And I do realize that they're going to move forward with this and vote on it without it. But I just wanted to state that it feels like we're not getting everybody's point of view in this before the if we're going to endorse this or not. That was just my sense on it. I'll pass my time back.
Holly, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on kind of this. What President Cunningham said is how a lot of people interpret our university policy around academic freedom protection, right? That it doesn't only apply to tenured faculty simply because it's part of the tenure code. However, that's been the concern about why the task force recommendations are reclassify people under the tenure code or somehow rather than making a university-wide policy that relates to academic freedom protection at our university system, right? Like that seems like a different pathway to help with a policy issue when there are still major issues with classification systems, especially of the thing that very, I think, degradingly calls people faculty-like, right? Like that's demeaning and devaluing of the work that is obviously being done by people who are not in the tenure track, which a lot of you represent. And so that's been my main bugaboo with this is like the AF&T was looking at a policy issue, and their response to a policy issue was to suggest reclassifying employees rather than look at the policy issue separately. Then, like, because there should be look at the classification system and everything, but that should be separate from a policy issue. I hear you, Angel, on the concern that we are voting on how P&A is the P&A Senate is feeling about this thing that's going to happen at the Faculty Senate next month, but that's going to happen regardless of whether we take a vote. And our vote is really like, do we align with the AF&T report's recommendations? Because it's absolutely right that there are these other parallel things happening. Because workforce reinvestment resolution is also still like a thing happening in the background that also impacts some things that are happening in these other tracks. And so I think if we want this our Senate to provide any sort of response that gets kind of into the process and into the mix with the faculty Senate vote next month, when so many of our senators, alternates, and constituents are going to be impacted by whatever that recommendation is, if it's taken up by the university administration, then this is the point at which we kind of have to make that state stand or make that position clear.
Megan, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to add into, I heard the comments about interpreting that like folks who are doing instruction or research have academic freedom and that that's the president's viewpoint. But I think having the academic freedom and having the protections of having academic freedom are two different things. So whether one has it, but like if you try to exercise it, if you don't know if your job is safe or not. And I think maybe this is something that comes up with other issues that have come up in P&A Senate in terms of like contract lengths and things like this as well, then like that's part of the question. I feel like I saw that addressed in part of was it I forget if it was the response letter or our or our concerns now, where like there was mention about like how that works in other schools too. And I guess like I don't know how to address that. I feel like that's a piece too in here is like if you don't have the protection that goes with it, then is it is it academic freedom still or not? And
Lauren, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to like thank Megan for that comment because I think there are sort of like two issues with this. One is like sort of like the policy side of things, but then I think what the Academic Tenure and Freedom Committee was trying to emphasize is that there's a legal side that like may or may not offer protection. So even if there is sort of within the university policy piece, academic freedom, that there may not actually be legal protection if, something were to happen and something were to go to a court of law. So I think they're looking for ways to try to offer that legal protection to instructional P&A. I don't know if there are other avenues to do that. I'm not sure if there are other ways that that might be addressed. But then sort of like a tangential piece that I wanted to raise too, is that I feel like this idea of reclassification is actually I am someone who would be affected by something like this. I am instructional P&A, and in the College of Liberal Arts since I think about 2021, we've been working on this P&A professionalization effort to try to get instructional P&As more sort of like regular faculty like status. Um, Reclassification is one of the things that that body has asked for. And every sort of like piece of progress that we've tried to make has really been shut down. So, in my view, I see this idea of reclassification, even if it's through the lens of academic freedom, as a positive thing. So, I just wanted to put that out there.
Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask this here. I actually just pinged Angel on IM because I was curious about this, but I really like your point, Angel, and I'm wondering if you could maybe expand on that a little bit because I'm always super sensitive in making sure that we're consulting with all the impacted stakeholders. And if somebody raises their hand and says like, "Well, hold up a second, we're maybe not consulting with everybody that this may impact, and we should get their input as well." I'm always for that, but this also falls into sort of thing like, I think we should, the way I heard this was sort of like, I think we should not do this right now yet because of a couple of reasons. But what I'm looking for, and I'm very curious about, not a challenge, just curious, is sort of like, in your opinion, Angela, what should we be doing? There's a thing of like what not to do, but there's also what should we be doing? So who else should we be engaging with? Does my question make sense? I feel like maybe I muddled it, but well, you're muted too, Angel, I think.
I apologize. Um, uh, I wonder if this is the thing that we're actually talking about, this report that they created, or are we talking about um, misclassification of some of our P&A staff members, and they should be on the faculty line? And I don't know if I'm reading these reports correctly, but Brian, and maybe your committee can kind of think about this, but like, are we in line with this report, or should we be advocating for something else?
I see. And we is just like in your mind, who is we in this? Is this all P&A faculty like staff or
I um I think it's such a misalignment for some of our P&A staff not to have that faculty line, you know?
yeah, yeah,
And that is what I hear from my own college is that, it's hard not to have those voting privileges. It's hard not to, I'm doing that work, but I'm not seen as a faculty member. And so I'm wondering, is this the report that we want to put forward and put a stance like this is what we're supporting, or are we supporting something different?
I see. I see. Okay, that's a good question. Yeah, thank you for that.
Nick, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that there's just a couple of things that I've been thinking about, and I think this is one of those things that is so large that there are multiple problems that need to be solved, and the thing that has been proposed is not solving all of those problems. Because I do think that there is an element of there are currently some members of the university that are not classified as faculty that should be classified as faculty. That seems to be the biggest focus of what the AF&T task force has done in their recommendations, is trying to get those folks in line with the tenure policy. But it doesn't address one of the parts of their charge, which was to create an overarching university level policy for academic freedom protections. So I think that maybe this is kind of a partial, like, we're moving in the right direction kind of thing, but there's other stuff that really hasn't been addressed because, like, this keeps coming up, but like librarians still haven't been adequately dealt with yet, in terms of like how do they fit under academic freedom protections. There are more things, and I think we're probably at a point where if we, well, there's one part of this that is, I don't know how much sway we're going to have on the faculty senate, and like this is outside of our locus of control, other than just we can voice what our concerns are about the matter. So there's an element of how much time and energy do we want to spend on this. I do think it's worthwhile to bring forward some concerns, and think maybe more about the future of what is the task force, if this goes forward, going to be doing, and making sure that there is influence there, um, from our body in how are you implementing the recommendations, and here are other things that you should be considering that have not been put forward, that this is solving part of the problem but not the whole problem.
Colleen, go ahead.
Okay, mute. I guess I had a couple different thoughts, and maybe I'm starting to answer one as I think about this more, but one of them is just sort of clarification of why academic freedom applies specifically to faculty. And does it apply, I mean, would all what categories of people at the university should have academic freedom, like what, so if someone has a good answer to that, and I don't want the rest of P&E to have like less job protections compared to like faculty, or less. I'm saying it kind of badly, but I'm trying to understand that part of it. But then my other thought was, can we vote on the faculty's opinion with the explanation, the caveat that we also plan to vote on the provost's opinion whenever that comes through, or with caveats and things too. I do think we should, I think we should use our voice and say something and be part of this process. But it does seem to be like a messy process. And I was wondering if there's a way to recognize that as well as like vote on it.
We can certainly communicate that to the faculty senate. I'm planning on going and asking someone to yield time just so I can share the results of whatever we want to put forward. But I think that's something we've definitely said to them and something that bears repeating, which is this is very messy and it feels like things are happening sort of out of sequence with each other. It's also challenging because in our conversations with AF&T, they've kind of said, well, once this report is finalized, like we have nothing to do with how this moves forward because that's the implementation team. So a lot of our comments about the follow through and what actually happens on the other side of this aren't really landing right now because it's like, well, you're not talking to those people currently. So that's been a challenge. I'll say on the side, we're trying to figure out if we can conduct a vote via email. So we're figuring that out before we get to new business later. If we can't, then we'll deal with that. But if we can, then we'll try to do that so we can give folks a couple more days to kind of check back in with their constituents. Quickly, I know we have more to say on this, but we will have to move forward on our agenda today. I'm going to transition to call on our subcommittees to give their reports. Do we want to start with benefits and compensation?
Yep, we can do
Brian, I see you and Pamela, so I'm going to call on you.
Yeah. I can give a quick update. The BNC continues to meet monthly. We met on March 11th, where we hosted speakers from employee benefits. They presented on the well-being program and also on time away options for P&A employees. And then, we had a good bit of conversation about when to use what, that question of what time away resources we P&A employees have, and when is appropriate to use which, with all the nuances of the old sick and safe time and the new program, and then how FMLA is integrated into that, was a big topic of discussion there. And that's it. Oh, yeah. And the update is also in the linked in the report here.
Thanks so much. Let's go to who do I have? Angel and Lydia for communications.
Hi, everyone. We had the February Senate newsletter go out to all constituents, and we are working currently on updating our infographic about P&A.
Thanks so much. I know I'm relying a lot on that infographic too because I've promised a lot of folks I'm going to share it out when we have a new version. So that's definitely a point of pride for the Senate. Thank you so much. Kim and Casey, do you want to talk about outreach?
Sorry, I thought Kim had just sent me a note that she would talk, but I will. So we met in March and we discussed some updates from across the university, and we continue to send the emails to welcome new P&A staff, and we're discussing creating a Canvas onboarding site and like what would be nice to have and what we nice to have versus need to have. And there was also discussion a few times this year about a mentoring program. So we'll look into that as well.
Thank you. And then PD&E with Joshua and Alex.
Yeah, so I can start us off here. We recently had somewhat recently had the Promoting Integrity and Preventing Research Misconduct and the Managing Up to Me events that are now available. The recordings are now available and linked there. We will be having our next event April 8th, so hopefully many, if not all of you, have registered for that. It will not be recorded. If you're not able to make it, then you can register, but there'll be a summary email sent out after with resources. This is a follow-up from the event we had last year in 2025 around ESST. This one will be more focused on Minnesota paid leave, the new program that came out in 2026. So I encourage all of you and all of your colleagues to come to that event, ask questions, to try to both give feedback and just get ourselves more educated on these new programs. Alex and I have decided to transition the effort to catalog professional development at the U to the next co-chairs. And just as a general reminder, all the events are recorded and available on the Senate website. And then Alex, anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's everything. Although I am going to put a link to that document that Joshua just alluded to in the chat in case people have some additions that they want to add to it. Basically, PD&E has the dream of creating something similar to what the communications subcommittee has produced. In that there's sort of like a one-pager that contains all the different sources of professional development at the university, and we're hoping to crowdsource that effort. So I will dump what we have into the chat, and if there is anything missing from it, we would love additions. So stand by.
Thanks so much, Joshua and Alex. I see Kim has her hand up.
Yes, I didn't realize that I was starting to talk and no one could hear me. So it's something with my computer. Sorry about that. I just wanted to just append to what Casey was saying about outreach. We've also instituted this year a time for sharing amongst our members because I guess that's really one of the only places that we can kind of share amongst each other in P&A Senate. And it's been really helpful. We always do an icebreaker. So I would encourage anyone who is a co-chair to continue to kind of look for these moments because it's been so fulfilling to get to know our members in a more in a deeper way because we're making space. I'm sorry, the dog. Making space to talk. Okay, I'm gonna go silent again. Sorry.
Thanks, Kim. Zoom has gotten really good about drowning out dog barking, but you can't tell as the person speaking what is actually coming through. So that is still very frustrating, I know. Quick note just to say to folks, Jacqueline and Lori were able to do some digging behind the scenes. We are able to do a vote via email. So we're going to do that instead of voting today. That'll give folks a little bit more time to check with their constituents. So we'll send that via email with links to the relevant documents. All right, and then for the chair's report, it's actually a combination of what our last item was, which was the AF&T report, and our next item, which is the report out on President Cunningham. So I'm just going to jump into that. So as I mentioned at the start, due to a late change in availability, President Cunningham had to switch her visit to PAC from April to March, so yesterday. Unfortunately, that means our new officers won't be able to join in that conversation next month. Though if that takes pressure off, again, please consider nominating from the floor as we go into our elections. President Cunningham kind of started out highlighting a few ongoing initiatives. We thanked her for coming and kind of gave kudos on the health services contract. She started by saying, we're still working really hard on the contract and figuring out the details of that. are going to look like. They're also digging into the new strategic plan and working on advocating with the legislature for the bonding bill that is related to the St. Paul campus renovations, as well as some of the other, I'm now forgetting the name of the bonding measure specifically, but it's specifically for updating out-of-date buildings, student center, and then the dentistry school, I believe, are the three items they're trying to have funded through that. Um, the president also mentioned that work is going on with the workforce reinvestment still. And it sounds like, she mentioned this offhand, but she did say that they were looking at merit increases this year. It was offhanded, so it seems very early, but that was hopeful that they would continue that trend of trying to keep our salaries competitive, while we're also, having these balancing budget conversations. We don't want folks to start falling behind. So we were lucky in that we had those last year, and it looks good for this year as well. And then the president also talked a bit about the new support that's going into AI on campus. There's a new vice provost position looking at this. There's a new AI hub. Um, this is something that I've not seen yet, but I'm very interested to see as someone who, works in educational policy and has to answer a lot of questions from students and instructors around what's allowed around AI. We've certainly been hoping for some kind of higher source to come and tell us, what we're supposed to be doing in this space because it's moving so quickly. And right now, basically, our requirement is that faculty have a statement in their syllabus about whether or not they allow it, and that's a new requirement. So we're very early yet in that space. So looking forward to seeing what else comes out of that. We also asked a number of questions. We started by asking about, how we can address the kind of historically low trust in higher education, what P&A can do in that space. The president kind of assured us, saying that, yes, that is true, that trust is down. We can see that. But that's also true of all civic institutions. So it's not something unique to higher education. But she did highlight that, as a land grant institution, we're doing a lot of things well in that space, that others are still kind of struggling to address. She noted that 53% of our undergrads graduate with no debt, which is again, I hadn't heard before. That's a really great number to know of. So trying to stress affordability and access and those things as part of reestablishing trust was her primary recommendation. We then asked, in relation to the AF&T report, what should the future of P&A faculty, instructional faculty, and tenured faculty look like? And she, didn't have an answer ready for us that would just solve all of our problems, unfortunately. But she acknowledged that the classifications as they exist are really confusing. There are some people who are doing the same job that have very different classifications, different compensation levels, different titles, and really, it sounds like wants to put resources into resolving that, though it sounds like still more to come. She did mention the provost task force work is ongoing. And while they'll be reporting out in May, the actual work will continue on past that point. So again, very interested to see what comes out of that group. She also talked a little bit, as we said earlier, about how she believed that, relevant groups within the institution are covered by academic freedom as needed, and it's not tied to tenure status. She really wanted to stress that, which has been a different sort of interpretation than we've heard from some of the folks in the faculty senate. So again, kind of highlighting that challenge of, academic freedom, but then what does that mean? Does that mean support? Does that mean, tenure level support? Does it mean all of these things? So certainly more to come out of that space. No concrete answers at this time. And then a really excellent question someone asked about how the presidency is valuing or balancing external innovation with retention and promotion of internal talent. So in bringing a lot of folks in that were previously external, you're bringing in new ideas, new voices, but not wanting to lose that institutional knowledge and the lines for promotion that exist for folks at the institution. And she basically said she thought that this was all about balance, that it's important that we always have paths for promotion for our people and that we use them. But then also trying to, find space for voices outside the institution to come in and inform our work in new ways. So, a bit of both is what she said essentially. How do you balance? Well, you need to balance it. But it was a really nice conversation around that, and I think we had an excellent opportunity to connect. She also recommended in future, so this may be something for PAC yet this year or maybe even next year. So those of you who are thinking about running, um, to connect more closely with the provost and her office and that work, in addition to our kind of required and scheduled meetings with the president. And I think that really could be a great idea now that the provost is in place. She has these initiatives ongoing that we can maybe get a better connection directly to that office to so we can speak about some of these issues around, you know, um, job codes and reclassification and all these things that we're concerned about. It seems like provost office would be an excellent contact to have in that space. And that was the extent of our conversation. I'm pausing to make sure there aren't any questions. Yes, it was the HEPR request. Thank you, Nick. I could not come up with it. That is what's moving forward with the legislature. Actually, I thought that they were supposed to vote on it in February, but it now occurs to me that I'm not sure if they did. I feel like I would have heard about it. So perhaps more to come on that. With that, I think we're now ready. This is my first time running this, so I'm a little bit trying to make sure I have everything in line. It's time for our elections. So we're going to begin with elections for chair-elect, and then move into our subcommittee co-chairs, and then representatives to University Senate. A couple reminders about voting as we get started. We have 82 voting members, including Molly. So our quorum is 42 to hold elections. The results are all verified after the meeting, so we'll have results, but then they'll be confirmed after the fact once we have a chance to go through all the votes and make sure they add up. Senators are able to vote, are eligible to vote, and alternates may only vote if a senator is absent and if they've notified you in advance. So if no one let you know in advance and you're an alternate, you shouldn't have to vote. I don't vote unless there's a tie. And basically it's just majority, basic majority. So whoever gets the most votes is the individual who would win. I'm not sure if it's relevant for today, but I will note that votes by phone aren't accepted. So if anybody is joining us on phone, unfortunately, that means we aren't able to count those. For each election, I will proceed by I'll start by calling for nominations from the floor. So if you nominate from the floor, you'll kind of have the first opportunity for, not to put you out there, but I'll call for nominations. Anyone who's nominated will be given 1 minute to speak at the time of the nomination. And then all of our nominees submitted in advance will also have 1 minute to speak. And Lori's going to run a timer for us so we can keep track. Following that, Jacqueline will launch the Zoom poll. For nominations from the floor, use raise hand if at all possible. If you wish, you can also raise your hand on camera if your raise hand feature doesn't work or isn't viable. try to wave us down so someone spots you, so we don't move forward without noticing if that's the case. If possible, use the raise hand feature because that will definitely bring you to the front. Reminder that if you nominate from the floor during your 1 minute period to speak, you're generally asked to talk about your experience for the position in specific experience you have for the position that you're speaking, and then whatever vision goals, plans that you would have for the position. So, why are you interested? What's your background? What would you like to do, basically? And oh, and I should note, if someone else nominates you, you're not required to accept. So you can nominate yourself, that's most common. You can also nominate someone else, but try to give them a heads up if you are going to do that, unless they're, one to roll with it, in which case that's also welcome too. With that, I think
Can I
we
say a
are
couple things,
ready.
Tony?
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Jacqueline.
Just want to say one, according to my count, we're at 72. In order to meet quorum, we needed 42. So yay, thanks everyone for showing up today. This is super awesome. And then I just want to make sure if anyone has any questions, like just based on anything Tony went over with related to the election before we officially launch into it. Megan?
Yeah, I'm just curious for logistics purposes, if we understand we're doing election or nominations from the floor, but if after floor nominations, we only have one or in some cases two candidates for a position that can be a co-chair, do we still need to go through the process or can we make a motion to vote on the, like just elect the two candidates that are there if there's only two people to fill the co-chair position?
So I think when we talked about this, Jacqueline, if it's for the co-chairs, we have to vote anyway. Is that
Yeah.
right? And then for university senators, if we have 11 open seats and 11 nominees, we can just say, you're all appointed. That can move forward. But for the chairs, they do have us conduct the vote. Even if you're by yourself, we'll conduct the vote just to have it official.
No, yeah, I totally get that. I just was curious if we still need to go through the process of having that person speak, or if there's only two people for a co-chair position, can we just move right to the vote?
Oh, that's a good point too. I would say, if you're the only folks, say something, give a nod to, why you're continuing or why you want the position. But if you are up by yourself, don't feel like you need to make a lengthy speech for your nomination either. That's fine. Kit.
Hey, I'm off camera, but I just wanted to raise a point that might be comforting or encouraging for folks. That if your term is expiring or if your years of service are expiring this year, you can still run for chair elect. So don't, if you're concerned about terming out or anything, because this is the end technically of your last year of service, you can still run for chair elect per our bylaws.
Yes, you're all eligible, so no one can get out. You can nominate for these positions, so please do. Jacqueline, anything else before we get started?
I think we're good to go.
Oh, sorry, Carol, go ahead.
Is what Kit just said, does that apply to university senate positions as well? People that are terming out on P&A Senate, they can run for university senate, or do you have to still be on the P&A Senate?
So people who are terming out of P&A Senate can still run for University Senate because it's based on who is currently a P&A Senate member. So currently you're a P&A Senate member, even if your 6 years are up this year, you can nominate for your Senate and do a 3-year term there.
And one last point of order, I'm going to repeat this every time Jacqueline launches a vote, but only senators can vote. But if you're an alternate and your senator is not here, you may vote in their place. And you are not voting for them. You are voting your opinion or your choice. You're not voting what they would have voted. But I will repeat this like that, make sure alternates remember not to vote each time we launch a vote. But I just wanted to say that out loud before we get started.
Thanks, Molly. Really good point. Okay. Then I think with that, we'll start with our position of chair-elect. And again, you are all eligible for this position, so I'm going to pause first and ask if there are any nominations from the floor. And again, please use raise hand if you can. Gonna have to get used to uncomfortable pauses here. Not hearing any. Then I'm going to move on. If something pops up, someone just yell at me because I'm going in and out of my Zoom window. But then I'm going to move forward and call on Joshua Braverman to speak for 1 minute as our nominee submitted in advance.
So, yeah. Yeah. So I will certainly keep it briefer just for the spirit of the meeting, to keep it briefer. I'm presently the one of the PD&E co-chairs, too many abbreviations. And I'm also on the University Senate, and I've kind of dove head in over the last 2 years or so that I've been involved with Senate, trying to get involved with the University Senate and working with my colleagues in CBS and trying to have more of a cross Senate collaboration within our unit, just so we kind of collaborate between the civil service folks, the P&A folks, the faculty. And I think that's sort of my biggest goal is having P&A, have, more strategic, present voices across the university, even if we are numerically not as represented in University Senate, um, having that be at least our voices be heard, even when we don't have the votes, in the same way that we talked about earlier. The second, oh, never mind.
A minute goes very fast. Thank you, Josh. Then I believe Jacqueline is going to launch our poll. And again, Senate members can vote, alternates can vote if your senators are absent and have notified you, and I do not vote unless there's a tie.
Ten more seconds if you wish to vote. Last call. And we have 66 yes and 1 no. That appears to be approved. I will verify after the meeting, but congratulations, Joshua.
Yes, congrats. Thank you so much for running for this important role. Okay. I will then move on to our second election for the day, which is the Benefits and Compensation Subcommittee Chair or Co-Chairs. I will first pause to see if there are any nominations from the floor. Again, please use raise hands to nominate from the floor. And I assume if I see hands that are congratulatory ones, that they're not for nominations, but yell at me if I'm wrong. Okay, not hearing any. I'm then going to call on our two nominees to speak. We will start with Hangna Bystrom, and you'll have 1 minute.
Great. Thank you, Tony. And you pronounce my name 100%. Thank you. I was a CS senator for a year, and now at my last year of my 3-year term on the P&A Senate, and just has had a great experience. And um, what I what I'm hoping to do is um, this is really I'm part of the Benefits and Compensation Subcommittee 3 years in a row. And I chose to be a part of the subcommittee because I really believe this is a space where the university can really engage with employees to have meaningful conversations and where it's just going to shape our uh, policies positively to make employees feel awarded, appreciated, and motivated, and ultimately retained. And it's good for the employee, and it's also good for the university too.
Thanks so much. Our second nominee is Megan Haggerty. You'll have 1 minute to speak as well.
Awesome, thank you. So I came into P&A Senate knowing that I wanted to be on the Benefits and Compensation Subcommittee. Didn't have any aspirations of running for chair, but here I am. That tends to happen because I can be someone who is pretty vocal and not afraid to kind of challenge what has been done or or push forward what I think needs to be done. And I've heard from a lot of constituents about two issues that I've been raising consistently, and I want to continue to raise those items. One is bringing back domestic partner benefits for employees. For those that don't know, they were taken away when Minnesota legalized same-sex marriage. And then looking at the holiday calendar, which I realize is going to take, coordinating with a lot of our partners across campus and things like that. I've been at the U for a lot of years. I have a lot of partners across campus, and so I'm ready to kind of utilize those networks to push forward the issues that are raised by P&A constituents.
Perfect timing. Thanks so much. And then we're going to have Jacqueline here launch the poll in just a moment.
Since we have two candidates, I have the election listed as approving them together as co-chair. And I did notify them in advance of that. So here we go.
A reminder that senators can vote, alternates can only vote if their senators are not present.
Five more seconds. Let's call. And we have 69 yes and 1 no. That those positions pass. Congratulations, Megan and Hangna.
Congratulations. Thanks so much. Always exciting to get new folks into PAC as well. We welcome all new voices. We are then going to keep moving along. Our next election is for communications subcommittee co-chairs. And I will once again pause to ask if there are any nominations from the floor. Not hearing any. I'll then call on our first nominee, Angel Sandry, to speak.
Hey everyone, this is my 5th year as a P&A senator. I was on the outreach committee first, and then this year I moved to be the co-chair of the communications subcommittee, and I'd love to continue as the co-chair and just promoting the excellent work that we're doing here in the P&A Senate, but also representing the P&A staff too. And I'm excited to have a co-chair to do it too. So I was very excited that Sarah wanted to step up into that role too.
Thank you, Angel. And then our next nominee, Sarah Danzinger, will also have 1 minute to speak.
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah. I've been at the U for 11 years, just finishing up my first year in the P&A Senate. I'd like to, again, support Angel in her work. I'm a comms professional in OHR, and I will bring a very practical lens to this role. I do newsletters and communications full time. So I'm just looking at to help keep people informed and lighten Angel's load. Thanks so much.
Thank you to both of our nominees. We'll now launch that poll. And again, Senate members can vote. Alternates can only vote if you've been informed that you have a Senate member that's out today and you're voting based on your choice, not on what they would have chosen.
Five more seconds. Last call. We have 68 yes, 0 no. Congrats to Sarah and Angel.
Congratulations. Very good to see all of our committees so far fully staffed as well. We'll move on to the outreach subcommittee. I will pause to ask for nominations from the floor. Please use raised hand if you'd like to nominate. Hearing none, we'll continue. And I will call on Casey Gregerson to speak for 1 minute.
Thanks, Tony. So I'm Casey Gregerson. I work in chemical engineering and material science in the College of Science and Engineering. I served as co-chair this past year with Kim, and I think we kind of realized we needed a year to figure out what we needed to do almost. So we really wanted to create a Canvas site for onboarding new senators and alternates and potentially for new co-chairs as well. And we also are hoping to, sorry, I'm speaking for Kim too, apparently, to create better systems for the committee as well. And I'm going to end with 15 seconds to spare. Thanks.
Thank you. And now we will call on Kim Clark to speak.
Hi, my name is Kim Clark. I'm a librarian in the social sciences. I am not one to seek out these types of governance sorts of leadership things. But I have really enjoyed my year and learned so much about how the university works. I have been loving working with Casey. We make a really good team. And I really do think that our energy brings the members together of our subcommittee. I'm super excited about our future plans regarding, as Casey said, the Canvas site to help potential and upcoming P&A centers do more onboarding and orientation. And also looking forward with making stronger connections between the other subcommittees as needed. And I'm hoping that we will both be able to win this election so we can realize these plans together for the next year.
Thanks so much. And we will move forward with launching the poll for this election.
Five more seconds if you wish to vote. Last call. I have 65 yes and 1 no. That those rules passed as well. Congrats, Kim and Casey.
Congratulations. Thank you for returning for another year. We appreciate you, Kim and Casey. Our last subcommittee is going to be our Professional Development and Enrichment Subcommittee. And before I call for nominations from the floor, one of our previous co-chairs, Joshua, was just elected chair-elect. So I'd like to give him an opportunity to talk about experience with this committee and why you should potentially nominate yourself.
As much as I'm going to miss being a co-chair of that committee, I know that we have so many strong people who are on the committee this year that I think would all make good co-chairs, so much so that I couldn't even pick who to reach out to encourage. So I would just encourage for anyone who wants to be, who was on that committee last year or has ideas was on the committee this year. I think, it'd be great to have a mixture of people who are there in the past. I think it would be great to continue a lot of the great work that Alex and I had hopefully vaguely started.
Kit.
I would like to make a floor nomination. I would like to nominate Pamela Cherry for this role. She was previously the B&C co-chair, and I think she did a killer job. And it would be a real shame to see her rotate off of Molly's pack.
And then Pamela, you have a choice of whether or not you'd like to accept the nomination.
I'll accept the nomination. Thank you, kids.
Wonderful. Thank you both. Now I'd like to ask if there are any additional nominations from the floor. Again, we really prefer these to be co-chair positions because it just makes work easier for everyone and it gets us more voices on PAC, which we appreciate. So I will pause for as long as needed to see if there are any additional nominations from the floor.
Tony, can I ask who's on the PD&E subcommittee right now? Because I don't know that information. Is that something we can quickly share so we know who we could be looking at to tap to nominate?
Let me pull that up.
Thanks, Jack.
I can get the membership list just a second.
I'll also note if you're on the fence, if we don't have a co-chair, moving forward in these, we usually will continue to kind of solicit that help until we have someone. So we'll keep coming back to you. We're not going to let you off the hook if you're on the fence. So please do consider nominating.
I
Casey.
can help. I can help, Pamela.
Lila? Okay, floor nomination. Thank you.
So Layla, you can speak for 1 minute.
Okay, totally just rolling with it right now. I have been on the Senate as a alternate for a few years, and this is my first year as a full senator. I work in the controller's office, and I have worked with Pamela in the past, and I love working with her. And I do also really like my work currently in the professional development world and subcommittee. That's it.
Thank you so much. And I realize now I've done this slightly out of order, but Pamela, do you have anything additional you'd like to say for your nomination?
Or if I can speak outside of my laughing at Kim's post in the chat. Sorry, it's just distracting and hilarious. Thank you for that brightening of the morning. Yeah, I have been at the university for a considerably long time and have really enjoyed my time serving as the one of the BNC, serving with Brian and the BNC subcommittee chair, just looking to do something a little different uh, this year. And so I find professional development is incredibly important with the staff that I manage in my employed role at the Bakken Center for Spirituality and Healing. But I really feel strongly, just as a P&A class, that we want to provide opportunities for deepening knowledge and expanding skills, but look forward to hearing, my time is up, from constituents about how they would like to do it. Thank you.
Thanks so much. And I think we'll go ahead and launch the poll for this election.
Five more seconds if you wish to vote. Last call. And we have 64 yes and 0 no. Congrats, Pamela and Layla.
Congratulations to both of you. Thank you for being willing to nominate from the floor. I know it can be a little stressful to add that onto your day first thing in the morning. We appreciate you. We are then, we have all of our PAC members elected for next year. Thank you all so much. We're going to move into our University Senate representative elections. But we're going to start this by just inviting Lori to talk a little bit about Senate participation and why this is so important.
Thanks, Tony. I just, first of all, so pleased to see the representation this morning in this meeting. So let me just begin with the caveat that I'm speaking to the choir here clearly, but it is just so important to have P&A voices at the table when important decisions are made. And this June will be 2 years that I have been here, and in those 2 years, I have just seen excellent representation from P&A, and you've had really strong, great leadership, and I see that continuing next year. So so please, we need P&A voices. And also, I just want to offer, if anyone has any questions about commitment, service, all the ways that our office can help support you in this important work, please do not hesitate to reach out. But really don't want to see any open seats because, again, one thing that has really been impressed upon me, especially in this past year, is how important it has been to hear from P&A folks when it comes to issues at the U. Thanks, Tony.
And I see we have a question, so I'll answer it right away, which is yes, we do need additional nominations. So we have, let's see, 7 people, I believe, that nominated in advance. We need 7 additional nominations. We have 13. Well, technically, we need 6 total to fill all 13 spots, but to hold a vote, we would need 14. So really looking for folks to consider nominating from the floor here. If you haven't been part of the University Senate before, um, there are, I think, and I'll look to Lori for a nod, 5 meetings a year. Is that right?
There are typically 6 meetings per year. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So 6 meetings per year, usually split between fall and spring. They are being held virtually with the exception of next year. I think the first meeting and the last meeting are going to have in-person options, but there was a resolution passed at University Senate this last year to say that any Senate member can request remote accommodations. So there would be remote access for all of those meetings for the next year. Um, they are usually very structured, so they come with the president and the provost giving reports, usually the SCC chair giving a report, followed by questions. There's a queue that you get into, so we've been using a system of using a QR code to get in line and say, yes, I want to speak, and I have questions or what have you. So it's not a situation where you have to go prepared to necessarily speak on a topic that you maybe didn't see coming. You're going to have all of the information in advance, and if you're going to speak, you're very intentionally signing up to do so. So very not a lecture style where somebody's going to be asking your opinion randomly as you were in the middle of a conversation. We also have great support across our university senators whenever we need to get together to discuss issues. We've facilitated that. And I will note that very occasionally there would be a special meeting called of University Senate. We are trying to make those as necessary as possible when they happen. So trying to make sure things go through the normal meeting structure unless it's really timely. So sometimes we'll have calls for special meetings that don't get the support to move forward. But I think we had one this last year. So just for reference for folks to understand the time commitment generally. And these are held Thursday late afternoons. Right now, I think it's from 2:30 to 3:30 approximately that the University Senate meets. Very occasionally, if the university and the faculty senate, which meet back to back, have like the same agenda, they'll just mix those two groups together and have a slightly longer meeting. But that's also somewhat uncommon. Nick, go ahead.
Thanks. This is Nick from Morris. I just want to echo something that Molly put in the chat. Shout out to all of my fellow non-Twin Cities campus and extension folks. Like, this is a great opportunity to get another glimpse into what is happening at the system level and to have some amount of voice in that. So I just want to echo, like, consider it, please.
Yes, please, please do. One of the things we identified early on in PAC was we don't have enough of our folks from campuses and from areas outside of the Twin Cities represented in sort of these leadership positions. So we really want to make that push that you bring that voice to these meetings. It can be really important. Um, I'm seeing more folks encouraging in the chat. Allison, go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to self-nominate.
Wonderful, thank you. And with that, I'll use that as the opening to say, please use raise hand feature. We're accepting open nominations from the floor, and we'd like to see them from a number of you.
I think we should let Allison have a minute to speak.
Oh, yes.
Before moving on
Before
to
we
the
get out of
next.
sight. Yes. Allison, please go ahead.
Sure, yeah, I was just part of my role in CLA has been to add on the chair responsibility for the CLA P&A board. And what I have found is that having sightlines to the bigger picture is really important to some of the discussions we're having. I know someone spoke earlier about the P&A professionalization piece, and just understanding what's going on in the larger scheme of things and across the system has been really helpful in winnowing that down to leading that group and having those conversations in this large college with other P&A colleagues.
Thank you, Allison. Elizabeth, are you nominating as well?
Yep, I'll self-nominate as well.
Perfect. Then I'll give you 1 minute to speak as well if you'd like.
Great. So I've been a full career person at the University of Minnesota since 2001, both as a student, as an employee across civil service and P&A positions. I'm currently working as the chief of staff at the Hormel Institute in Austin, Minnesota. So I do take the point about having some of our more decentralized locations represented in that university senate. So that's somebody that's worked both on the Twin Cities campus and now external to that environment. I think that there's a lot of great perspectives I could bring to this. So I'm willing to jump in and see what I can get done.
Thank you so much. Additional nominations from the floor. Eve?
I'd like to nominate Matt Zaxky from Morris.
I would accept that.
Perfect. Thank you. And then Matt, would you like to say anything? You would have a minute.
Sure, I will be brief. I have done governance a lot in the 20 some plus years I've been involved in the university. I've done a previous gig at the University Senate, P&A Senate, and in Morris, I've done a lot of governance over the years to the point that my joke on campus in our assembly body is that I have the Constitution tattooed on my back. So governance is kind of my jam, and I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Stephanie, do you have a nomination?
Yeah. Hi, I'm in as an alternate today. My name is Stephanie Galliano, and I guess I was going to self-nominate for the position.
Wonderful. Would you like a minute to say a few words?
Sure. I'm not sure I need a whole minute. I'll try and be brief, but I'll also try and be honest. I've been teaching intermittently at the U since around 2003, and I teach in the communication department as instructional staff. I have not done a lot with governance, and as I sat and heard that we need more people to show up and raise our voices, I thought, you know what? That message applies to me. So I guess what I can bring is a fresh perspective and someone to notice new things that really has historically a long period of time here at the U, but also not one where I've been very involved with governance. So I'd be a newbie, but willing to give my time and effort.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Joshua, do you have a nomination?
Yeah, I would like to nominate Alex Badges.
Thanks, Josh. I'll accept.
Alex, do you want to say a few words?
Sure. For those of you who know me or maybe don't, I've been the co-chair of the PD&E subcommittee here on P&A Senate for the last 2 terms, a member of that committee for 3. I'm cycling off of the P&A Senate, but those of you who know me personally, and there are a few of you in here, know I don't say no to anything. So Joshua was right to throw my hat in the ring because I was considering doing it myself. But one of the things I joined Senate for was getting a sense of what's happening at the university outside of my little bubble and getting involved and speaking my 2 cents or other people's 2 cents on their behalf. And I am happy to go do that at the University Senate, as I have done here. So, yeah, Megan knows. I don't know how to say no, so I'm here saying yes to this. I'm happy to serve in this role.
Thank you, Alex. Megan, do you have a nomination?
Yes, I am nominating Jake Gage.
And Jake, would you like to accept?
Oh dear. Oh, how many nominees do we have so far? I'm feeling particularly stretched thin these days, and I want to do a good job. But how many nominees do we have so far?
Wait for
We have
Steve.
five.
Sorry,
Oh, sorry.
Tony,
Go
this
ahead,
is your
Jacqueline.
meeting.
No, you're good.
I was keeping tally too. We are at 5, so let's see, plus the 7, that brings us up to 12, and we have 13 open seats.
Could we defer my nomination for a few moments and see if there's another nominee? I so appreciate the vote of confidence, but I've this has been quite a year, and I'm stretched a little bit thin.
We appreciate that too. Pamela, did you have a nomination?
Yes, I would like to nominate Kit Brashears for this role.
Kit, would you like to accept?
Sure.
Wonderful. Do you want to say a few words?
Well, thanks, Pamela. Sure, I'll say some quick words. I've been on the University Senate and the P&A Senate and all sorts of committees across the university, and I am really passionate about governance. And I feel like, knowing where the bodies are buried and being pretty plugged in with communications networks, will be really helpful in this role. So if I'm chosen, I will represent you all quite well and ask lots of uncomfortable questions.
Wonderful. I'll pause quickly to ask if there are any additional nominations from the floor. Otherwise, Jacqueline, I assume that I just have each person that pre-nominated go through.
Yep, so I think we should just wait and see if we have any more nominations from the floor, and then we'll run through the list of 7 folks who submitted in advance.
Sounds good. Well, I will pause for a few additional seconds. Please do consider additional floor nominations. Gretchen.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I apologize. I'm quite ill with a cold, so I'm not gonna subject you to that. But I'd like to self-nominate. I'm at my term limit on the P&A Senate, so I've served 6 years. Was sad about, that coming to an end. I didn't realize I was eligible to be considered for the University Senate. I did briefly serve there. My term ended in 2024 and I kind of came in mid-cycle, so I got maybe a year and a half or so of experience. I've been at the university for 25 years, 11 years in P&A. I'm a research director in clinical informatics in the Office of Academic Clinical Affairs, Twin Cities campus. So thank you for this consideration.
Thank you, Gretchen. I will give it an additional 5 seconds. So any last nominations from the floor? Okay, I'm not hearing any. In which case we will go through each of our nominees submitted in advance. They will each have 1 minute to speak, and then we'll move forward for our vote. I'm actually the first person on the list, so I guess I can call on myself. Um, I won't speak at length because you've heard a lot from me already today. But I'm going to be moving from my chair position into ex officio position, which is the same thing that Kit is in this year. So I will have a continuing role in the P&A Senate next year, but I'll then have to cycle off for a year. And I was excited to find out that I still had some time that I could serve in the University Senate. I think that there's a lot of work yet to be done there to advocate for P&A staff. One area is just in terms of our number of representatives in the University Senate, and we've still not found a great solution for how we could adjust that moving forward. So I'd love to be able to continue that work and just keep some of that consistency moving forward. And with that, I'll pause and then say that our next nominee would be Lisa Dirks, and you would have 1 minute.
Sorry, this is
Lisa?
Megan.
Oh,
Lisa's,
Megan, you go.
there's Allie. Allie and I are both an extension with Lisa. Lisa's at a conference today.
Oh, okay.
I'd be happy to talk about why Lisa's amazing though.
I will also lobby on Lisa's behalf.
That's very good. There we have two individuals that want to vouch for Lisa. So, um, yeah, I don't know if I'm looking for Jacqueline.
I
If there's
think we
anything else we
should
should do.
just have people read Lisa's her bio in the her nomination that she submitted in advance.
I can do
And
that
then we
if you
can
want,
move on to
Tony.
the next person.
I can do that,
Yeah.
Tony. I know you've been talking a lot.
Thanks, Molly.
Yeah. Lisa is from Extension as the regional director with 8 years at the University of Minnesota, 6 years in University Senate governance, and 6 years in P&A Senate. To the question, why do you want to serve as a P&A representative to the University Senate? Lisa shared this: the mission of Extension is, quote, making a difference by connecting community needs and university resources to address critical issues in Minnesota, end quote. It would be an honor to serve in the University Senate to aid in connecting the needs of P&A staff and Extension staff to the greater university mission. I have the support of our department leadership as well as the energy and time to be involved.
Thanks so much, Molly. And again, that was Lisa Dirk's nomination. Our next nominee is Anne Farnock. And Anne, you would have 1 minute to say a few words. I didn't actually check to see if Anne was available. Quick.
I believe she was here earlier, Tony, but I don't know if she is now.
Okay. Molly, could I call on you to read the nomination again?
Absolutely. I do see Anne in the participants list, but it's possible there was something happening technologically or something. So yes. Anne Farnock, I hope I've said that correctly, Anne, is from the College of Design, title of lecturer, years at the university, 4 years of service in University Senate governance, 3 years of service in P&A Senate, 3. To the question, why do you want to serve as a P&A representative to the University Senate? Anne has said, as a U of M teaching staff and alumni and formerly with Minnesota colleges and universities, I am uniquely positioned as someone with experience both internally and externally to serve and provide perspective to the University Senate. I am passionate about the excellence that the U of M is known for and wish to continue and excel in our excellence both locally and globally.
Thank you. Our next nominee is going to be Jeremy Jenkins. And Jeremy, you have 1 minute.
Hello, thanks. I I've served on the University Senate before, and I think it's important. I think it's a really important place for governance, and so I'd be willing and happy to do it again. I laughed at Matt's comments earlier. Like him, I've done a lot of governance, and so I'm back for another round. And he and I have actually served together before. I do not have any tattoos though, so I can't claim that. But I would love to serve. So thanks.
Thank you. Our next nominee is Veronica Papraka. And Veronica, you'd have 1 minute as well.
I think Veronica had to leave early.
Here I am, folks. Okay, for Veronica from Carlson School of Management, job title of Wellbeing Coordinator, years at the university, 5 years in University Senate Governance, 2 years in P&A Senate, 2. To the question, why do you want to serve as a P&A representative to the University Senate? Veronica responded, I wish to continue to serve my P&A community in serving on the University Senate and represent the voices of this wide employee group.
And then our next nominee is John Patton. And John, if you're here, you'd have 1 minute to speak. I think that John is here, but we can't hear you if you are trying to speak. We can always have Molly read the rest, all of the nominations if we have to.
Okay, I'm not seeing John unmute here, so something may have come up. So John is with the medical school, job title Department Administrator, years at the university 25, years in University Senate Governance 10, years of service in P&A Senate 5. To the question, why do you want to serve as a P&A representative to the University Senate? John responded, I've previously served on the University Senate as a civil service senator from 2011 to 2016 and a P&A senator from 2022 to 2025. I would be happy to serve again.
Thank you. And our last nominee is Jenny Peterson. Jenny?
And Molly, you do not have to read my information. My name is Jenny Peterson, and I manage the Enterprise Data and Analytics team in OIT. I have been a P&A staff member for over 18 years and previously an alumni before that. But this is my first year serving on the P&A Senate. And I previously worked in student services, and when I was in that area, I felt like I had a much better pulse on the happenings of the university. And since I've moved over to technology, I realized that I was missing the opportunity and the time and space to really be involved in matters related to the Senate. And I believe I can bring a good perspective to the University Senate. And I really enjoyed my first year on the P&A Senate.
Thanks, Jenny. I believe we've now heard from all of our nominees, so we will, in just a moment, be launching that vote.
The vote's ready to go. I just want to let people know what it's going to look like. So we have 13 open seats and 14 nominees. So you're going to have a list of everyone's name. It's going to be in alphabetical order by last name. And you're going to select 13 of the names listed. So I will launch that right now. This is going to take a while, so we'll give people several minutes to figure out who they want to vote for.
And for the last time, you get to hear my reminder that senators may vote, alternates may only vote if your senator is not present.
I haven't seen any votes come through in the last few seconds. Does anyone want more time to submit your votes? I know it's a lot here, but also given the nature of this type of vote, there won't be a clear winner or winners from the list. So this will be verified and I will email everyone the results after the meeting. Not today, but likely next week sometime.
And is the poll now closed, Jacqueline?
No, sorry, I was just
Oh.
going to do last call. Last call if you wish to vote. Okay. And right now, I will share these results. It might have to enlarge this a little bit, but and like I said, I will follow up via email and let everyone know the winners.
Thanks so much, Jacqueline, and thank you to everyone for your floor nominations and for your support of this process. It's really, really important that we have all of these seats filled moving forward. So you've also made things much easier on Molly and Joshua in future. They're not going to be kind of trying to backfill these seats, so that's excellent. And I think we have now come to, yeah, the last part of our agenda for today, which is the introduction of an open comment period. So we're going to have approximately 15 minutes. We're a little past the original allotted time, but we had extra time on the agenda anyway. Just to put open for you all, this might be a little awkward as we wait for how this is going to, turn out. So there might be some silences here, but wanting to create an open space for folks to comment on any issues outside of what we've discussed here, anything that's ongoing in your work in your community that you'd like to bring forward, or even just ask questions about to the other members of the Senate. Lauren, go ahead.
Hi, thanks. I'm actually very excited about this new portion of our meetings. So thank you for that. I something that I wanted to bring up that has kind of been touched on in some of the conversations that we've been having around sort of like the idea of reclassification that's come up in the academic task force report and also the provost new task force, which are sort of I guess they have like similar strategies, but I'm not sure that their aims necessarily overline. I haven't gotten a lot of information about this task force, but these conversations that are going around have already started to impact P&A in my unit. And I have a lot of concern about what I perceive as a lack of consultation with this body in particular. Even looking at the Academic Freedom and Tenure Committee, they have two P&A representatives on the committee. I know that that was a concern of their voices being involved in that. I don't know how many, I don't know the makeup of the task force and how many P&A voices are involved there, but I guess I just wanted to know if there are sort of like conversations and pain points that are bubbling up in other units, and also just sort of raise the concern about what I perceive as a lack of consultation.
We can go to very formal raise hand feature. I'm also willing to allow folks to unmute if they have something timely that they just want to come out and say. It's not going to be very structured. I'll just make a quick note to say we did raise that concern as part of our comments in the last faculty senate meeting. And part of our frustration was, yes, this idea that there were some P&A staff that were part of the task force, and therefore that was seen as having appropriate representation, and consultation wasn't done in addition to that. So that's definitely a major pain point we've had. I would say across University Senate work and a lot of the things we've been trying to do, a lack of consultation has been a recurring issue.
I guess maybe a question back then is, what can we do?
When we met with President Cunningham last week, or I'm sorry, yesterday, she mentioned the PAC group reaching out to the provost office too. And I'm thinking with the provost office developing this new task force, it's important for them to hear from us and to know that we are a consulting body for them to consider. But also, I like the idea of having this open time space to share, like, where should we be reaching out? Who should PAC be talking to? And like getting guidance from all of you on that.
Tony, if I may also respond to that. Lauren, these are really good questions and absolutely things we're thinking about too, because I agree with what you're saying. Like the consultation had gaps and there's processes moving forward that we're not really sure we fully understand, right? Like I totally agree with that. We actually talked with Brianna from the president's office yesterday about this, and she had mentioned that same opportunity of speaking with the provost office, and specifically maybe even Beth Lewis, who is the vice provost and running that task force about that you're referring to. And one of the things I asked is there a list of the people who are involved in the focus groups? Because we don't know, right? Like, I know in my particular situation, I asked my department chair if he was aware of any of our own P&A faculty in our department being on any of these focus groups. He remembers responding to an email from Beth Lewis giving her some names, but we don't know. So I do encourage us as P&A senators to reach out to our P&A faculty in our constituencies to see who, if any of them are. Because as we also know, P&A faculty can also be on the faculty senate, right? So like there's a weird mix there. And because we don't have the list of who's involved in these conversations, it could be a lot of P&A faculty who are actually being represented or representing the faculty senate, and maybe less on our side. So I don't know that for sure. I'm not trying to start anything. I'm just saying like that's something to be aware of and speak to your constituents about. And certainly bring forward to your own constituents if they were unaware of these things happening.
Carol, go ahead.
I think it was Angel earlier that said something about P&As and not being able to vote. And I was curious if there's been any, this doesn't go to some of the university level policies, but at the unit level, I think the voting rights vary within colleges and with units. And so I feel like this might be an issue that is more problematic for people, P&As in units where they get no voting rights and maybe don't even get to attend faculty meetings, versus in other units where P&As can't vote on tenure decisions or tenure track hiring, but they can vote on lots of other things. And so I just wonder if there's some education to be done to make sure that everybody's speaking from the same place, because I don't think all P&As are being excluded to the same extent in different units.
Others or any other topics we'd like to address today? I'm happy to fill time. I will share anecdotally that I'm sure a number of folks saw this. There's a really heartbreaking article in the Daily that just came out about an undergraduate student that's been held in detention since January. So I would encourage folks to read on that if they haven't. And I'm very hopeful that one of our amazing alumni with a legal background will reach out to that family and provide assistance. So I won't formally close the comment period because I know sometimes folks need a second to think about it, and we have another couple minutes here. But just as a reminder, before we close out, we're not going to do that vote as part of new business today. Regarding the AF&T report, we're going to send out an email and have folks vote that way, so you have a little bit more time to read through things and to check with your constituents. I assume that'll probably be sometime next week, whenever the Senate staff have time to get that out to folks. Seeing nods, good. Anything else for the good of the order while we have everyone together today? Well, I guess I should formally say, there's no formal old business. Does anyone have any new business? Hearing none. All right, I'm going to consider us adjourned for the day. Thank you all so much for your participation, for your floor nominations, for all the work that you do for P&A. This was a really great meeting, and I'm so happy to see all of our seats filled. Thank you all, and we'll see you again next time.